Let me just say this. Have you ever looked at your garden and saw something suffering or not doing too well, and you help nurture it, show compassion to it, show patience, and you see it come back to life? Now, I've spoken about this particular tree that's before you. This is a Meyer lemon being grown in a 40-gallon container. Now, this was one of 3 trees that I had before. One I gave to a good brother of mine, a YouTube subscriber named Brian Guzman. These are the 2 trees I have left, and this is one right before you. You see how luscious this tree has become. Now, I've shared a few products, and I've shared my soil amendments with all of you. And I am so thankful and grateful. And I want to give all thanks and praise to the Most High, the Creator. Because without Him, I would not be able to learn all about the fruits of the Spirit and why it's important that we learn it. Because when we learn it, we can apply it to almost everything, if not everything, in our lives. I'm so elated because I am rejoicing. Oh, hallelujah, to see what this tree has become. And it's just now starting to flourish. May I remind all of you, this is not a dwarf Meyer lemon. This is not a semi-dwarf. This is actually a standard tree being grown inside of a container. I figured I'd grow it there long enough to see exactly if a standard tree can be grown in a, substantial, amount of space. And the only way to get that type of space, you've got to go up in containers. That may be a problem for some of you if you're looking to move your citrus trees, or in this case, your lemon or Meyer lemon, indoors in the colder climate. But I would challenge you folks to leave it out in a cold climate and simply wrap it. When you're dealing with dwarf varieties or trees that are about this level here, maybe even 2 foot taller, a foot wider, you can always build you a box. Understand, a rectangular box built that can go over this entire container. Something like this, up and down, straight up and down. And that's going to have a clearance on the top. And then it just goes over the container. And then wrap it in 6 ml plastic, creating your own greenhouse for the container. Oh, I need to stop playing with you folks. I want you to stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to show you how to build a greenhouse, a greenhouse for your container grown citrus trees. I'm going to show you how you can leave them out in the colder climates, zone 5, 6, 7, and 8. How? Well, anyone knows that when you create a greenhouse, you could change your microclimate. You can change your growing zones. One piece of plastic, let's say you put in 6 ml on there. You could go from zone 6 to now zone 8. You double that plastic, you can go from zone 8 to zone 9 and 10. You see, you can continue changing that zone. So I'm going to show you folks, because I know a lot of you are finding it frustrating. You're getting up in age and you're having to put these on dollies and wheel them in and out of the garage. That can be some work also. It's not easy pulling 150 pounds, even if it's on a dolly. So I'm going to show you how to build a simple, inexpensive, less than $10 greenhouse, because I got all the 6 ml plastic. I'm going to show you how you can take a 2x4 and slice it down to 1x1s and build you a decent greenhouse. And I'm going to show you how to collapse that greenhouse at the end of the season and store it so it doesn't take up any space. I want you folks to stay tuned with me. But if you have the time right now, Let's get a little closer and admire this beautiful, beautiful Meyer lemon that's been restored. So here it is. You can see all of the luscious leaves on it and whatnot. It's absolutely gorgeous, don't you think? You got fruit. Look how beautiful it is. And it's healthy. Very, very healthy. I absolutely love it. Let's zoom out here. Well, zoom in, I guess. And you can see that it's a standard. You see that? Now, I do want to share something with you folks. I'm going to put this camera back on its stand, and I want to explain something to you folks right now. And give me just a second. I'm going to situate this. Okay? We're going to come up in light here. Now, one of the things that you always want to make sure you take care of is making sure your tree is void of any pest. Now, what do I mean by pest? We're not talking about leaf miner. We're not talking about any of that. What we're simply talking about is ants. If you see ants crawling up your tree, like here, ants are there for a reason. The reason why, because ants actually carry aphids up into your tree, and they house aphids in your trees. And when they house aphids in your trees, aphids multiply 10 times greater than rabbits. And the aphids, their food is your leaves, so they start sucking the life out of the branches, the new growth, and the trunk of the tree. The ants come back, and then it uses the aphids for a food source, because the aphids have sucked up what they like. It's called sugar. So you need to make sure you treat your trees. On part 2, when I share with you folks the DIY homemade greenhouse, container greenhouse, I'm going to also share with you a product that you can use to stop the ants dead in their track. And they'll actually take it back to their hive. And we're not talking about borax. I'm going to show you a product that, well, we can take care of those pesky ants. In the meantime, you know how you deal with the ants? You just simply take a spray nozzle and you spray your citrus trees down. That kills most aphids because they're soft-bodied insects. No aphids, no ants. I'm going to also share with you folks, besides the product that I'm going to be introducing you to, it's another product that I do here at home. And I've shared this with you folks before. You can find it on many YouTube channels. I'm going to also take a cup, add borax, add the sugar or honey, whichever one you prefer, and you want to sit that in your container. When you do that, the ants are going to be attracted to it. They're going to go inside the cup and take a little sip. They won't make it home. Some of them will actually, take it back to their hive, and they'll kill everybody else. Understand something. When you're growing in containers, remember, the ants are already in your container. They're actually in the soil. So if you ever took the time to sort of kick, ants respond, and they respond to that shake, and they literally start coming out of the soil. You'll see them. Okay? So now that you know that ants are already in the soil building their own colonies, and most of your containers, well, they'll have a colony of ants. There's a way to deal with ants. I'm going to show you a third technique also, where you take an open top spike, you put it down in the soil, and then you fill it with borax and the honey, or borax and sugar. Fill it up, and just go ahead and let your ants have a ball. I've been able to control the population of ants where I don't want them. And I've given them their own food in areas where they can stay away from most of what I like. Until next time, you got to admire this Meyer lemon that bounced back like it's nobody's business. Now remember, let me just take this off really quick. I don't just container garden. I also have a Meyer lemon that's right here. This is the standard also. Okay, and then I have the other Meyer lemon. It's not as lush as the Meyer lemon you just saw, but may I remind you, I bought them all at the same time. This is the second one, and it's come back, and I have no doubt it's going to be just fine. Now, there's a product that I did introduce you folks to before, and that product we'll call Ultra Bloom. I see that some of you are using that product now after watching my video. Do me a favor. It really tickles my tummy and makes me happy and elated when folks can give a shout out to where they've learned about that product. Because that product, not any normal user would be able to look at it and say, ooh, will this help my citrus tree? Because most of it is used for flowers. For citrus trees, well, you got to understand phosphorus and potassium and why that's important for fruit development and whatnot in your blooms. If you want to keep your blooms on your citrus trees, you need to focus on the latter two, for phosphorus and potassium. If you need to focus on leaf growth, you need to focus on a high nitrogen that has very little potassium and phosphorus, if none at all. Until next time, take care. I think this is an absolutely wonderful thing, don't you think? Hope all the information helps. Stay tuned for part 2 and 3 if necessary. Until then, love yourselves. I know I certainly will.